Hey, welcome back. In this video, we are going to learn how to take a regular photograph and turn it into a cut file. There's a ton of information here. You're not going to want to miss it. So go grab the beverage of your choice and come right back. Hi, I'm Brenda Lambert. I'm a licensed instructor for Silhouette, and you found your way to Silhouette Success. If you're new around here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and we can keep crafting together. When we are finished creating these files today, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to use them to create amazing customized projects. You're not going to want to miss this. So buckle in and let's do this. Okay, here in Silhouette Studio, the first thing you want to do is bring your photo onto the mat. So we're going to go up to File and click Merge. We're going to find the file that we are wanting to work with. Load that onto the mat. Now, when you are working with photos in Silhouette Studio, you want to make sure that it's a high quality, high resolution photo. The grainier your photo, the worse your results are going to be. In my studio, I have the cut lines turned on when I bring in a PNG. So it comes in with this red box around it. I'm going to change those cut lines to no color because that will affect the trace. The next thing you want to do is go to this circle. It's half blue, half white, and that will open the image effects panel. Click on that. It opens up on gray shade. That's exactly what we want. We want to take the slider and put it all the way over to the right. When it's at 100%, click apply, and you now have a black and white photo. I'm going to go to the tab that looks like a sunshine that opens up contrast, brightness, and saturation. And I'm going to play around with this just a bit. I want the contrast bumped up just a bit. Because when you're using the trace feature, it picks up on the contrast. That's what determines where it will make the cut lines. So I bumped up the contrast. I'm going to hit apply. And then I'm going to open up the trace panel that is also on the right. It looks like a piece of toast or a butterfly. Some people say one, some say the other. Anyway, go ahead and click on your trace panel, and then you want to select the trace area. Come over and draw a box around your photo, and it will light up in yellow. You don't want it to trace too much of the image right now, so we're going to bring that down just a bit, and you'll notice that there are a ton of little dots everywhere. If you are making a cut file, that is going to be a disaster. What you can do is come down to scale and bump that up. And a lot of the dots have gone away. That is what we want. So we're going to go ahead and hit trace, move the original image away. We're left with cut lines, and we're going to fill them in with black. And we are going to change the cut lines to clear. We're going to move that over to the side. And we're going to trace our photo one more time. So select trace area, draw your box, wait for it to light up in yellow. And this time we're going to go to where it says high pass, and we are going to move the slider to the right until we have a nice outline on the picture. I took mine all the way up. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to bump the scale up just a bit again. And you can see that the trace areas get thicker as you go up. You don't want it to be too much, but you don't want to be left with a million dots either. And this is something that you're going to have to play around with. This is not an exact science. I can't tell you what numbers to enter. It's going to be different for every photo that you turn into a cut file. So when you have it looking the way you want it, we're going to hit trace. We're going to move the original image away. We're going to color this one in with black. We're going to turn the cut lines to clear. And then you want to take the first trace and line it up with the second trace. If you need to zoom in and get it exact, then that's fine. You don't really want to resize it too much at this point, but zooming in and out is okay. You do that with the magnifying glasses up here. Zoom in, zoom out. Okay. When they are lined up properly, you want to select both of them, right click, and click on Weld. Now this is going to take a minute and it's going to look like a disaster. There's a million little pieces with bounding boxes around them. That's okay. We are going to right click again and choose Make Compound Path. That takes all those little bits and pieces and turns them into one element. And there is our trace of our photo. Okay, so anytime you trace a photo like this, there's going to be a ton of editing points. And we are going to get rid of as many as we can, but we're not going to spend too much time on it. So if you double click on this, since we made it a compound path, it's all one element, we can double click and bring up the editing points. When I double click, it also brings up this box over here, giving me the options to work with the editing points. Right now, I'm going to click on Simplify. And that's going to tell the software to get rid of any unnecessary dots. It's going to condense the editing points down to as few as it can and still cut this file out properly. We can click on Simplify again, try to get rid of a few more. Now, when I clicked on it the second time, this red spot popped up. That means that there is a break in a cut line, and we do not want that. So we're going to undo that and work with it like this. Now at this point, I see that there are some things that I do not need in my image. This little spot here, I don't really need these spots outside of her hair. These can probably go, they don't serve any real purpose in the photo. So I'm going to take my eraser tool, click on that, and then I am just going to erase the bits that I do not need. You can adjust the size of the eraser up at top with the slider, make it smaller or larger. I'm going to get rid of that, do away with that. And as always, if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. You can just hit the undo button and try again. All right, now that I have cleaned up the outside edges a little bit, I wanted to show you, once you use the eraser, this is no longer grouped together. So if you click on part of the image, you can see whatever is connected completely will stay grouped together. But all of the rest of this is now no longer grouped. So let's put that back where it came from. We can select all, right click, and make a compound path. You could just group it together, but when you're working with the editing points, you want to make sure that it is a compound path. If you group it all together, you won't be able to pull up the editing points. I'm going to double click on this again, pull up the editing points, and I am going to zoom way in. Now, if you are working on this as a cut file, you're going to want to go through and delete some of these points. These little pieces in her hair here all it's going to do when we send it to cut is make a slice in the vinyl. We don't really want that. So select a point and then just hit delete on your keyboard and it will get rid of those points. Now, when you're working with a lot of editing points like this, it's going to slow your program way, way down. The fewer the editing points, the better the software will handle the image. So you can just kind of scroll around and see what you need, what you don't need. Here's something out in the middle of nowhere. We don't need that. We'll hit delete, get rid of that. The more you clean up your file, the better it's going to cut. And you just need to decide how much detail you want to keep. Okay. I am not going to go through and clean all of these up at this point because that would take too long and nobody wants to sit and watch me go through the whole process, I'm sure. What I am going to do is I am going to move this off to the side. Just know that if you are making a cut file, if you're going to run it through and cut it out of vinyl, you want less editing points than that. The fewer the editing points, the less detail, the easier it's going to be to cut and weed. At this point, this is probably doable if you have your settings right and if your blade is clean. If there's any issues with the machine, it's going to be hard to get it cut out right. Now I'm going to go over tracing this image one more time. I'm going to bring it onto the mat and we are going to trace just a little bit differently. Open up the trace panel, select trace area, draw the box around the photo. Now, because we have the first traced image open still, this is going to take a little longer this time. Our computer will probably not react as quickly as it did the first time. Now, this time I am going to take my threshold down further, and I am not going to use the scale down here. I'm just going to let it trace like it typically would. I'm going to hit trace, move the image off, fill it with black, and I'm going to turn the cut lines to clear. You can move that out of the way for just a moment. We're going to do the same thing as we did the first time. We're going to select trace. Then we're going to use our high pass again so that it traces the outer edge first and then works its way in, is what high pass does. So I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. That looks good there. I'm going to click on the trace button, pull the image away. Let's fill this one in. Set our cut lines to no color and line this one up with the first trace. So we went through the same exact process. Let's weld these together. While we're waiting, if you're finding this video informational and helpful, go ahead and hit the like button for me. It helps me out a ton, and it also pushes the video out into the YouTube universe so other people can find it easier. There we go. Okay, now you can see there's a lot more detail in this picture, but there are also a ton of little tiny pieces everywhere. That's okay. We're going to click, right click and we're going to right click and make a compound path like we did before, and that will take all of those little bitty pieces and turn it into one image. Now you can see we went through the same exact process for both of these, but they look entirely different. And this is going to allow us to work with these files in two different ways, as promised. At this point, we have covered a ton of information, and I just wanted to pause to say that if you have any questions, put them in the comments section below, and I will get to answering them as quickly as I possibly can. Okay, so we traced the same image twice. We used the same method, but made sure to highlight different amounts of details each time. The first trace, I made sure to have chunky areas. I kept the detail to a minimum, and I was worried about the amount of editing points within that file. And that's because I was cutting that out of vinyl. Here is the finished result, cut and weeded. It was actually easier to weed than I thought it was going to be. It turned out pretty good. Now, the second time that we traced the image, we left in a lot more detail. We weren't concerned with all of the little bits and pieces that were left in there, and we didn't worry too much about the editing points. And that's because I wasn't cutting that out of vinyl at all. Instead, I had planned on using the sketch feature in Silhouette Studio for that, and that's how that one turned out. Now, if you're going to cut an image like this out of vinyl, it's perfect for, well, anything you would use vinyl on, but my personal favorite is to make a customized blanket for a little one that's maybe going off to daycare and is having a hard time being separated from mom and dad, and they can take the blanket with them and have a snuggle anytime they need it. I think that's one of the best uses of this type of file when you're using vinyl. Now, with the sketch pens, you get a lot more detail, and it's perfect for customizing greeting cards or invitations, or you can even make a beautiful shadow box out of it and add some paper flowers, a vinyl saying, maybe some lights. It's an excellent gift idea. So I am going to head back to Silhouette Studio for just a minute. I'm just going to give you a quick overview on how to use the sketch panel so that you can use this file either way as well. So I am going to go ahead and delete that file, and I'm going to delete the original image, and that should help speed up the software a little bit. Go ahead and put that on the mat, and we are going to open up the sketch panel. It's down close to the bottom on the right hand side, and it looks like scribbles. So let's open that up. Now what you want to do is click on your file and choose one of the options here. This is the sketch fill. I used just the straight lines for my sketch. Now, once it has processed, you can see how it's going to sketch it out. The first thing you want to do is adjust your spacing so that it's filled in. I also adjusted my angle to a 45-degree angle. This is completely, it's just your preference. Okay, once you have your sketch fill the way you want it, you can also choose if you want to sketch out the edge or not. I did not on this file, but you can play around and really just choose whatever you like best. You can go through all the options, play around with it. Now this is this feature is data heavy, so it might slow your computer down a bit. It might even crash a time or two depending on. Okay, so it outlined it and it shut down my sketch panel. So I'm going to hit the undo, and it will take a minute, but it will bring it back to where it was. Anytime you're working with files that have a ton of data in them, a ton of editing points, you just have to be patient. It's a lot for the system to process. Okay, here we go. I'm going to open the sketch panel back up. What you're going to do is come down here to Release Effects. You're going to click on Release Effects. Mine is stuck again. But you want to release the effects before you go to the Send panel. Okay, when the file looks like you want it, you just go up to the Send panel. And I do not have my Cameo connected at this moment, but I'm going to go through and show you what you need to do to set it up. For the material, you need to choose something that you can actually sketch on. So that would be cardstock or copy paper. It will not let you choose the sketch feature if you have vinyl selected. So I'm going to choose cardstock plain. And then for the action, I'm going to choose sketch. And if you have a sketch pen set up in your machine, it will auto detect the sketch pen. Then all there is left to do is send it through the machine and wait patiently. The results are worth it, I promise. Okay, that was a lot of information, but we made it. Yay! Let me know in the comments which outcome you preferred. Did you like the sketch or the vinyl better? Also, if you've enjoyed the content in this video, make sure you hit the like button. It helps me out a ton. If you plan on crafting with me in the future, that would be the subscribe button. Don't forget the notification bell. YouTube will let you know the next time I upload a video. I'll see you there.